I don't know. I mean, he used to be a freaking flyer. Yeah, popped up. Right here.
It's March already.
Yeah, I mean, we need probably one.
Well, I guess 'cause we didn't have a February though, so.
They calls you doing much anymore.
Right into this end of what I'm doing. Gonna have a
Goes. You ever hear of Shanklin? Don Shanklin. He's an old engineer. Good.
I think so. Right.
Yeah, and
He'd come in, he'd come in and say.
Sit wherever you would like. We've got enough screens.
Yeah.
You should be able to see.
Yeah.
It's still,
So
I dread it, like.
Not even, just like. started out.
nice guy. Nice guy. We can't. He's like.
It's like, I just get everybody best.
the race car they never raced is the King's Cup Brothers.
The one that's probably
On the screen, sit down for everybody over here sometime.
Yeah.
The only issue with that is that all the colors get really messed up.
State.
County, they built that big patch in their county. They didn't tell, I thought it was gonna be like that.
They're all.
It must be. Our
Yeah, no, I learned that. No, until she said, yeah, no, I know better than that.
Person last time, I'll look at
Lady. The permanent vice chair anyway. The permanent chair, what am I saying? Wait, I know who runs it.
Always things. Three now.
It would fall apart.
There was a Michael.
Michael may be the executive director of the GNRC. We know who's in charge.
Seen.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Tell him names.
Well, y'all get out there.
Sit wherever you would like.
Yeah.
To do what Andy and I had to do. Split.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, thank you. With the pen and the notepad, I want you to see that too. Yeah, you really should.
Basically.
Guess what? Neither did I before I joined. We go, and now you can leave.
So I played it and it's really a slow.
No, we're not working with Kip, so.
She is.
Yeah.
Looked her yesterday. She said.
Okay, right. I associate it particularly.
All right.
Buses with capitals.
No, don't worry about it.
I got it.
Be easier on the gavel.
It's quite a start there.
Yeah, my short reign of tyranny begins. Obviously, I'm not Josh. This is Jonathan. So, but call to order this meeting of the TCC for March 2024. Start with and begin with approval of minutes from the January TCC. I'll entertain a motion.
Move. So move.
Second. All those in favor? Well, first off, we'll see if we have any corrections or any comments. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, if we have any members from the public for public comment, please step forward at this time. We do have a member from the public.
Hello, my name is Harry King. I live in Thompson Station. Know a couple of people here. And let me give you a little background. About 20 years ago, I bought some property in southern Williamson County. And I had a Spring Hill mail-in address. And I would go to the Spring Hill meetings, and Highway 31 from like Thompson Station down to Saturn Parkway was on the 10-year plan to widen it. Well, then it was on the 10-year plan, the 10-year plan, the 10-year plan. It's been 20 years. So I'm wondering what's the hangup? Why can't, there's roads, excuse me, being fixed everywhere else, and they're doing Buckner Lane and interchange there on 65. So why isn't 31 being worked on? That's my question. And I don't know if y'all can answer that or not, but it's just aggravating the traffic. It's just bumper to bumper all the time. So I appreciate, somehow y'all start working on it. Okay, thank you.
Station agrees with that. Thank you. Thank you.
Stacy Morris with TDOT, and again, projects are will be evaluated. So I will take your comments, sir. And again, projects are still evaluated each year. So obviously you saw that was not included in the 10-year plan. So that's, I'm sure that's why you're here. But the projects are evaluated each year, and we'll take a look at it. And again, we're still running debt free, and so we take on the projects as we can and get them to completion as fast as possible. So thank you for your
It
comments.
seems like it's always getting bumped to the bottom, and it's like, I don't know, of course, I don't drive all across middle of Tennessee, but it just seems like that. I mean, people just stacked up, burning up gas and, wasting time. So, appreciate moving it up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And we'll be glad to get your information and follow up with you on more specifics. Or not anyone here from the region that can give more project specifics than I can. But we'll be glad to do that and let you know kind of where it stands overall.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And Stacy, I believe that project actually is in the 10-year plan in the Modernization Act for design.
It's in the 10-year plan. I mean, it's in year 9.
Yes.
So, I mean,
It is in the plan.
It's there.
It did make the latest plan. So which is a good thing. And I live down in Spring Hill, so I feel your pain. So you ask where anything's at, it's on 31. Yeah.
There you go. It's
Yeah.
the rest of it's 31's a mess.
Yeah.
So.
And to answer your question about Buckner Lane, there's specific money allocated through a specific grant program for that interchange. So.
Hey, you should come sit in our seat. We say the same thing you're saying as board, as members. So just FYI, we want to know too.
I understand, but it's like, as Joe Citizen, it's like, it's been 20 years, and I mean, I'll be dead by the time you guys start digging. So, I'd like to see at least a shovel or two before I kick the bucket,
If it makes you feel better, I'll get out there this weekend with a shovel, move a little dirt around. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, sir. And actually, I need to do a little step back and do a little housekeeping. I got a little anxious and tried to speed through things. Just remind everybody, of course, we are in person here. We do have a Teams meeting online. We are recording this meeting. However, we'll do a little extra housekeeping. Got a little technical difficulties, so hopefully everything's working all right. And staff's trying to answer comments in the chat, but please bear with us if there is an issue. We're running on limited internets here, so we're running on a hotspot.
I've got my hotspot going, so hopefully that's taking care of the issue.
High
but
speed internet.
I don't know about high speed, but it's some speed.
It's some speed internet, some speed better than no speed. If we have any more comments from the public, I believe that was the only one, but all right, so public comment period is closed. So we'll move on to action items. And I'll see Transportation Improvement Program. I'll turn it over to Shay Northfield, our TIP coordinator.
Morning, everyone. So as a review, the TIP is a 4-year program that lists all regionally significant and federally funded transportation projects, must be consistent with the regional transportation plan and be fiscally constrained. The current TIP, which is fiscal years 2023 to 2026, was adopted in November 2022 and accounts for approximately $1.7 billion. And you can access all of our projects in a map in the TIP at gnrc.org/TIP. So there are 7 projects that have amendments today that we will be reviewing up on the screen, and $2.8 million in federal funds to the TIP. There's also one project with the multimodal access grant that's adding $1.1 million in state funds to the TIP. And then the remaining projects are going to be shifting funds from existing TIP projects. So no additional funds being added to the TIP for those. The first is Lebanon's State Route 10 Phase 3 pedestrian improvements. This is a new project to the TIP. And this is adding about $1.1 million in state funds from that TDOT multimodal access grant. And this is a sidewalk project. It's expanding Phase 3 of a project in Lebanon. Next is a Metro Nashville project, various intersections improvements. This is going to be combining 2 projects, so the next 2 amendments are going to be related to this action. This is going to revise the scope to include pedestrian signal priorities, which is the next amendment, in its entirety, including the funds from that project, which is about $1.3 million in federal USTBG funds and $594,000 in federal reserve funds for fiscal year 2026 construction. That's incorporating the scope, which is pedestrian facilities and signalizations at 10 of the most dangerous intersections through Davidson County. So that would be the first project related to this action amendment, which is going to be revising that scope and adding those funds from the other project. Next would be pedestrian signal priorities, which this amendment would be to close this project due to its inclusion in the previous project in scope and funds. Next, we have another project combination with two projects for Gallatin. So we first have Vol State Gap Trail Phase 2. This is the amendment in changing the scope to include Vol State Gap Trail Phase 2B in its entirety, including about $500,000 in local funds for fiscal years 2023 NEPA design and right-of-way, and about $950,000 in federal TAP funds for fiscal year 2025 construction phase. This would also name this project to Vol State Gap Trail Phases 2A and B, and update the description to include the termini of both of these projects. So the next amendment would be that Vol State Gap Trail Phase 2B. This amendment would be to close this project due to the inclusion of its entirety in scope and funds in the previous project. Next is an RTA project for track rehabilitation and maintenance. This is adding about $1.7 million in federal FTA 5337 funds, shifting those funds from existing TIP project WeGo Star Rail improvements. And this will provide track rehabilitation and maintenance between Lebanon and downtown Nashville along the Star. And the last project is the MTA Administration Building Rehabilitation. This adds $2.8 million in federal 5307 funds to the fiscal year 2024 implementation phase for rehabilitation and renovation of WECO's Nestor administration and maintenance facilities. Happy to answer any questions.
Renovation include any electrification or in terms of or the other type of alternative fuel source?
This is
retrofits?
No, this is just state of good repair. We had a sinkhole. We're adding concrete to repaired the sinkhole. Now we need to replace the concrete. We're going to do some asphalt improvements in the parking lot. We do not have this. We are doing a zero emission fleet plan. It's just kicked off this month. But previous reviews of Nestor, there's not a lot of space. We are maxed out, and there's some. The zero emission fleet plan will evaluate that and what the options are, what kind of fuel source, and where we could go.
Okay.
More questions for staff? All right, I'll entertain a motion to endorse these amendments to the TIP.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, we only have one action item, so informational items, connect downtown presentation by NDOT staff. So I'll turn it over to and introduce Marty Sewell with Transportation Planning Director with NDOT.
Thanks. Thanks for that intro and opportunity to share this update with you all. I guess I'll just point.
Yeah, just tell me when you want to switch.
Next slide if you want to. Well, this is thanks. The transportation plan for downtown Nashville that we've been working on for the last 2 years since early 2022 in coordination with all of these folks on the screen here, including our partners here at WeGo. And Felix normally is with me and we do a tag team on this, but I think I'll handle this today. So I might look at you a couple times.
Appreciate that.
But this is, again, the coordination with all those groups. we came to the conclusion to do this a long time ago, but we've had starts and stops and trying to do planning for downtown transportation over the years, including the in motion several years ago where we left a box over downtown because there were a lot of decisions that just could not be made at that time. So a lot of that came back, later on to be a problem when we were in the referendum era, but we needed to focus on downtown, not just on transit, but on trying to make everything work. And as those of you who come downtown very often realize, especially in our peak times, and those not necessarily being what they used to be, they're the 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the evening now, where a lot of those problems happen. And so we had to coordinate all of this with our East Bank efforts that are underway, as well as other planning studies that are going around the various neighborhoods around downtown, like Edgehill. So go ahead, next one too. As we started this a couple of years ago, working with the technical advisory committee and citizen or community committee of, I forgot what we call it now, it's been so long, but it's the group that would have included stakeholders from the community, not just from the different technical partners in this. But we organized the issues that were gathered through we had a state of downtown report that identified all of the issues, and this is the common themes that those were organized by. Again, none of these probably would surprise you. The one that was most interesting to me at the end of now that we're toward the end, is the loading space component of it. As you know, the curve is changing and has changed a lot in the last few years since the pandemic, with more deliveries and that sort of thing. And so now that is competing with space competing more so with the limited amount of space on our downtown streets for cars, for bikes, for everything else as well. And we'll of course mention the transit's being slow because of all of that congestion and the need to address that being a very important component of this, and a regional component as well. Moving on to the goals that we said, these were the organizing goals for creating the recommendations that we'll be advancing. I won't read through all of them, but you can get the picture from taking a look at that. And go ahead to the next one, please. And throughout this process, and again, it has been over 2 years, so there's been a ton of engagement and across the board, different kinds of events and a lot of individual stakeholder follow-ups and other follow-ups again, as we try to piece together, especially everything that happens at the curb. There are so many different stakeholders that are engaged on what happens on their curb, whether it's their loading spaces or their valets, or even their lack of support for multimodal or their support for multimodal. There's so many different viewpoints that came together, and we were able to work through over the last few years to what we have in our recommendations today. Go ahead to the next one. This is just a quick flash slide here of just the combination of all of these factors that helped us to determine what the recommendation should be, combination of expertise and technical analysis, community engagement, and of course the past work and planning experience that we've had, all these many plans over the years that were incorporated as well. Go ahead. Just before jumping into the actual recommendations, as we were moving toward releasing the recommendations, we did a run of models, a couple of models to test the recommendations that we were putting out for the community to take a look at. And just some key takeaways. Obviously, we have to do something. Doing nothing was a disaster, and so that's a strong talking point for downtown. That it'll get worse, it'll get a lot worse. Because there's a lot of development that has not come out of the ground yet that will come, that will add thousands of residents, thousands of hotel rooms, thousands of, name it, they're coming. And that comes with cars, scooters, bikes, and all the other things as well that we want to encourage. The mode shift makes the system work better, and there's a heavy mode shift goal included in this, and that is making almost all of our new trips multimodal over the next 10 years. And so that's a huge challenge, but it also shows that investing in transit, when you do that, and giving people high quality options, we will get an increase in traffic. I mean, not traffic, but in transit ridership. And I'll hit on that in a different slide. But all of this, again, has to be packaged with a very robust transportation demand management program. And we have the National Connector, which is funded, which is in our TIP here at GNRC's TIP, and continuing to implement. So that program will be expanding and looking into different territory to help assist with the plan. But I'll get into a couple of details about that in a second, but go into the next slide. So the recommendations are organized into 5 big moves. This doesn't necessarily hit on every recommendation. There are a lot more that you can see in the document that's posted on our website. But just in terms of managing congestion, safety component, moving people, having a more complete multimodal network, and again, maximizing the space that we have on the curb. These are all the big moves, and some of the recommendations will cross over into these different big moves. But and again, the thread I'll talk about on big 2, this on big move 2, the improving safety, that's connected to all of these big moves, as well as TDM. Go ahead to the next one. We'll focus on that first big move, which was managing congestion. The Traffic Management Center is something that's under development now, and that's also a TIP project that has a huge regional benefit for transit opportunities and helping with moving transit faster, as well as just getting people in and out of downtown for special events and for whatever reasons they might be coming to downtown. To have a modernized signal system in downtown that can be automated, can learn, that can be adjusted on the fly from our TMC. And just overall, I mean, this is what nobody disagrees with this in downtown. If there's anything, everyone understands that the traffic signals they're old, they need to be updated, and just take one trip through downtown and you get that reminder. I just did that yesterday and hit every red light. But that's going to be a thing in the past and the future, but it also comes with operational conversions and other enhancements that we're discussing that would make room for some of the other multimodal implementation, as well as curbside implementation. Those, you see 2nd Avenue and 3rd and 4th have some operational changes that would be coming, as well as 7th Avenue. Again, we'll hit on that in a second. You see the mobility lanes part of this. Go ahead and go to the next one. And again, safety is a big move. That's the thread that goes through all of the different recommendations that we have. And these are just a few of the examples, including the educational program, a focus on tourism and a focus on just visitors in general in downtown. And we manage that in special events. That's all built into this as well. And just being more competent in implementing those kinds of plans and activities. Next one, please. Moving more people, again, critical component of this, and this has a major regional impact by implementing new mobility centers, one in East Bank, which was part of Imagine East Bank as well, and the Sobro Mobility Center on the south end of downtown, which has been in previous plans as well, but we were able to, through this study and through the work we're doing here, show how that can be optimized with a transit priority corridor loop, which would be the darker or the thicker gray line that you see forming around the downtown. A transit priority corridor, transit priority corridor would include a dedicated lane for buses to operate in addition to some additional transit priority on 3rd and 4th in downtown where we can make that work. And then also the black lines with the route numbers on them, the frequent routes as they're identified by WEGO, that looking at opportunities to provide additional priority on those, whether that's through signalization or other things over the years as we move forward, depending on the money we have and that sort of thing, community buy-in. But the critical first step is this downtown loop. Right now, transit gets stuck in downtown, and that impacts their headways throughout the system and creates a lot of problems. And they can go into detail with that if you're interested in more on that. And of course, the State of Downtown report also included that. But again, this transit priority corridor, if you go into the next slide too, just as a graphic from NACTO that just gives an illustration of the bus only lane and how that can operate with all the other different uses that would happen on any given street. We probably don't have an example where all of these examples, all of these different things are on one street in our plan, but there are several corridors that will have a good number of these, including the bike lanes, loading zones, flexible loading zones, which I'll talk about in a second. Go ahead to the next one. Continuing on with moving more people, as the priority corridor, transit priority corridor is built out and the new transit centers come online, WEGO would work to maximize the use or the maximize those new facilities to the routes could take best advantage of having that dedicated transit lane. And over time, hopefully that we would have those dedicated transit lanes that would extend out from this as we go over time. But as we looked at modeling and what this could do with the transit priority corridors, that in of itself was showing a 67% more transit trips region-wide. So that's, again, that's making the system better throughout the region and throughout the service area. that attracts more riders. Also part of this is in keeping with WIO's plans to expand frequency and the service 24 hours a day on some quarters where that's possible, the frequent service corridors, which will especially help the downtown employees who have the late night shift, which is a growing larger percentage of the workforce in downtown that aren't working at the traditional office 9 to 5 hours. And they have trouble with, what time did the last bus is at?
Right, it's 1:15 at the moment and we're still receiving requests.
Yeah.
Why can't you make it 3? Why can't you make it 24 hours? We're receiving those already, having recently extended 11:15, 12:15 and now 1:15.
So we see that as a big opportunity for helping the economy downtown, helping our locals that are working in downtown. There are lots of other things that have to come along with that, safer routes to the bus stops, especially at night and not just night, but it's at 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning. I'm always imagining if you're a service worker at a restaurant or at a bar and you get out at 3 a.m. and you have a pocket full of cash, what does that person need to feel safe? Getting damage. And so, but that is something we think that through coordination with TDM, with WIGO, and with all of our partners in downtown, that is achievable. It's also about helping the musicians and the others that make Nashville what it is, helping them make sure that they have places to unload their equipment. If something happens in the peak of a weekend evening, a plumber needs to come in or whatever happens that needs to get there. And I also point out that the transit priority quarters would also assist in our emergency responses, getting vehicles downtown more quickly and being able to take advantage of the dedicated transit lane and any preemption that would be included in the traffic signal updates. Go ahead to the next one. The next would be just creating complete networks, and the focus there is on non-car travel, specifically bikes, scooters, whatever the next technology is that comes down the pike, that we want to accommodate in special dedicated lanes so that they're from the general purpose traffic. We want to raise the bar, and we have been raising the bar. Bike facilities in Metro, trying to make them more separation, more buffer, more vertical measures to especially of knowing what to look for. Here, it's not a perfect network. We've had to make some decisions that were difficult in different locations just because of the narrow streets that we have in downtown. And if you're not aware of this, if you don't spend much time downtown, we have a much narrower street grid than most cities that are in our peers. And so that creates a lot of challenges. We go to Minneapolis or Denver or other places, they have these huge wide corridors in their downtowns, and it's much easier for them to convert them to other uses without upsetting the drivers, right? And so that is a much more delicate balance to getting to something like this. We're still working with a few holdouts that could make a lot of noise, but we're going to go up to the line, and I'll talk about what that line means in just a second. But the idea here of just improving our network, having good north, south, east, west routes, travel within downtown and travel through, because so many of our residents on the east side that travel over to the west side of downtown, West End area, Vanderbilt, medical centers, all of that, they have to be able to get through, and this is their river crossing. So we have to make those safer. And of course, all of this works together with what's happening on the East Bank, with other projects that we have in the tip, like the Spokes Bikeway project. Let's see what else. With the Traffic Management Center, the ITS West End Broadway ITS project is another one that's part of how we implement this work, along with, the East Bank Spine is also in the tip right now. And so all of those things are built into this strategy. On to the next one, please. And this is just to give an example, a very cartoonish version of enhancing what we're currently providing in terms of bikeways. We have a lot of painted bike lanes. We have a lot of painted bike lanes. We have a few bike lanes that have better protection, but they don't connect to anything. Commerce Avenue is that example. And so that makes it difficult to make the case to folks in downtown who aren't in bike communities or don't really have an interest in or don't pay attention to who's riding bikes and whatnot. They see empty bike lanes and they say, why are we doing this? And they say the same thing about buses, but you put them on a bus when it's full and that changes their mind. You put them in a bike lane when people are actually out and about. They can start to see that and see the opportunity of a lot of those trips in downtown being taken care of on bikes, scooters, and other things. And kind of limiting some of the vehicle trips that would be required of that, whether it's Uber or any other kind of regular type of travel. Go on to the next. And the last big move is maximizing the curb. And this is recognizing that we have limited amount of space and a lot of different demands on that space. As a result, we have to maximize and be flexible throughout the day in several locations. And this map is identifying a few of those locations. And the intent would be to go back and evaluate all of our valet zones, for example. If you're a restaurant, a lot of times the valet zone is your 24-hour, something you get for 24 hours. Nobody needs, I would say 99.9999% of restaurants don't need a valet 24 hours a day. So what are the other types of uses that could go on in that space? They could be complementary to other businesses in the area. That's what we're getting at with this. So there would be a follow-up to this work to go into more detail. We would pilot an enforcement and organization and management a pilot project with a company that we've talked to a couple of companies right now that offer that technology where they can monitor cameras and different things to in addition to digitizing what's happening on the curb and having working with the businesses that are using the curb, like those that are delivering or working with restaurants and hotels, so that they could then communicate with the people who are delivering to their establishments. They would get permission, they would get a permit, those kinds of things that would allow them to be in those spaces. It would all be digitized. I'm probably not explaining it the way that they would and selling it. But the idea is our enforcement officers are spread out over downtown. We could never have enough of them to deal with everything. Just last night, a member of our planning department here at Metro had sent me an email talking about a blocked bike lane on Division Street and showed me the picture of the sign that a business had put out right there, sort of a sandwich board sign. By the time our enforcers were out there, it was gone. But by this morning, it was back. So that's kind of the dynamic we're working with, and we're hoping to add more organization to that. Our enforcement officers could then be more focused on things like that if we can have the more automated enforcement on the curbs. The next one, please. And this is just a reminder, this is a 10-year action plan, and the recommendations that we put forth can occur in 10 years. We do have to work with funding constraints, of course. We have to have more funding, and I'm sure you're aware of the conversation that's going on around more holistically right now in the transportation space in Metro about potential other funding opportunities through ballot initiatives. And so we will be keeping an eye on that, but we're going to be starting with the low-hanging fruit. A lot of the projects dealing with the traffic signals, for example, are already underway in some form or another. We've had the production, other things that are helping us to fund early stages of that. We'll focus on the transit priority corridors first on those signal improvements so that it can be positioned to take advantage of that as soon as it's online. Let's see. We'll continue, of course, working with our stakeholders as we develop these individual projects throughout downtown. Right to the next one. And then bringing it all together, this is just downtown is the central link. It's our hub for just about everything that we do in this region. And it's so critical for us to be able to get to it and get out of it and get through it and work within it. And so as you bring all of these pieces together, you do start to see an investment in 10 years that can really move the needle, help us with our mode shift, and also improving our relationships with all of our partners, have a more unified approach from all of the stakeholders in downtown. They can have a plan that is really pushing the envelope and pushing us forward. On to the next one. I think there might be one more. Yes, and this is just a rehash on the schedule. We used to be able to put the schedule on one slide when we started the project, but it's taking a little longer, so it now goes to slide. You can go on to the next slide, to slide 2, and this is where we're working toward. And you can see April right there. That looks so beautiful to me. I hope it stays just right there, because there's so much going on. We need to take care of this before other things get to council that are also going to require a lot of their attention for the transportation funding mechanism, whatever that ends up being. But we're going to here today, of course, and going through all of our various boards and commissions. Will be at the TPB, of course, and they're inviting the RTA members to join that meeting. I'm blank now when that is, but in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, and so we'll be there, and then we'll take it to council. The intent is the first meeting in April, which I believe is April 2nd, and they will vote to endorse it. And then from that point on, we'll start implementing, and we're looking forward to that part of it. So I've ran through that pretty quickly. If there are any questions, I'm happy to address them, or any concerns that you want us to share with our project team, we'll do that too.
I've got one question, one question and one comment. The question is about the one-way pairs on Second and Third Avenue. And it looked like it's a fairly short section. It's the pairs, I guess comparatively so with what some cities do with one-way pairs. A lot of cities are going away from the one-way pairs just because you're seeing speeds increase and a perceived safety issue. And I saw some specific components in there that you were talking about, safety components. So it looks like you have thought about that. What are you going to do for like monitoring any kind of speed increases? Because I feel that once drivers see that, they're going to say, "Oh, look, there's the Boulevard Speedway over here that we want to hit that roadway just to bypass the other streets."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, any design we do for any of the implementation projects would have a Vision Zero component, would have a slowing down the traffic component to it. We'll probably lower the speed limit for the entire downtown area to emphasize that as well. But of course, if the infrastructure is not there, it's not going to happen. But over the next year and 2 years, you're going to start seeing a lot more of those kind of Vision Zero spot improvements throughout Nashville. And they're really going to be showing up in downtown in a lot of these places. And a lot of that's low hanging fruit that we can get out. The vertical delineators, paint, and that sort of thing. Limit the space where you're traveling, make the pathway look narrower than it might be. But the goal, what we're doing is with those one-way pairs, we're making space for a mobility lane.
right.
And so in order to make that mobility lane safe, we want to make sure that we are keeping the traffic speeds low as well. So.
And so, for example, on Third Avenue, sorry. Yeah, on Third Avenue, we have only a 7-foot sidewalk, and yet we can have as much as over 500,000 pedestrians downtown. So by one-waying them is allowing us to expand the sidewalk and still provide for loading, unloading, some of the valet that we actually allow along that street, and still allow for a mobility lane and for traffic to move in an efficient manner.
You do plan on expanding the sidewalk as well down there. Okay, excellent.
So that it gave us those opportunities, given that the pedestrians are number one mode in the downtown core. We wanted to make sure that they were safe first. A 7-foot sidewalk barely fits two people.
Someone who's used that, I can definitely agree with that.
It's hard for that. I mean, people are pouring off of the sidewalk in that particular area.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Right.
Yes,
Walk
we do.
in the street.
Falling off,
Yes,
pouring off.
we do. Yes, we do. Yeah, the street becomes the sidewalk.
Yes, exactly. So we
Yes.
might as well expand it. So that gave us the opportunity to do that.
Okay, yes, so it sounds like you're not using the laneage as extra lanes either. So you're not doing all of the above. You're actually using the extra lane as to expand the multimodal capabilities.
Correct.
They're offsetting what we've taken away from one quarter, adding some capacity to another. That there's a lot of trade-offs.
Okay, that's excellent. And I guess the comment was, I guess it would have been, I won't ask you to go back, but it was on the third or fourth slide. It was some of the data points you had. And I think everybody has seen the growth in the area, and especially in downtown. But I think it was the 365% when you see it in the growth in downtown. I thought that was pretty amazing to see that in numbers. So.
Yeah, and then some of that predates COVID, and some of it's after, of course.
Absolutely.
Of course, there's been a shift toward more tourism, more development, that sort of thing. Hotels and all that have really popped up. Offices a little slower.
Sure.
But it's still super busy.
Just to see that hard number in basically a decade was pretty amazing.
And recovery has just been so much stronger in downtown than most of the cities in the country.
I have a couple of questions. One, and again, great presentation, covering a lot of time and effort. But on your slide that showed I think your WeGo stations, I noticed that Riverfront Station was kind of lonesome. It didn't have a lot of connection between it and the WeGo Central and the other networks that you guys are proposing. I was curious about that. And then I'll go ahead and give you my other question. From our days when we used to meet across the river at part of the stadium parking, I always kind of fretted about the fact that unless there was an event going on, there was a ton of, like, the world's largest surface parking lot that was going unused that could have otherwise been used for some sort of shuttle system across the river and pedestrian access to downtown or shuttle access or bus access to downtown. is there any possibility with the new construction of the stadium that there could be renegotiated contracts on surface parking there that they don't control it all the time and have it barricaded?
So I will tell you, pretty much all the surface parking with the new stadium is going away. And there's we own all that land around there and it was part of the contract. But with the new agreement, they currently do not own it. We do. And so we do have a shuttle service. We actually offer the ability for people, especially office folks, to park and then we shuttle them across. As a matter of fact, I would say quite a few of the Metro employees actually park on the surface lots and get shuttled back across the river. But moving forward, a lot of that's going to get redeveloped. So we're actually looking at putting in some municipal garages so that we can provide, one of the things we feel that's really upside down right now is there's a lot more private than there is public. And the private parking is extremely expensive and that's actually acting as a deterrent. So we're looking in East Bank of actually providing more municipal parking that can be below market rate and a lot more reasonable in the downtown. And then also building out that access across. So part of the plan in reestablishing East Bank is actually building a better access to the river across at the pedestrian bridge we have today that will come down further into touch the stadium, touch T-Pack that's going in there, touching a lot of the retail. I mean, you're not going to see a service parking lot anymore over there.
Okay, well, that makes sense. And I understood they were basically placing the new stadium in the parking lot. I didn't know what you're doing with the old stadium.
Yeah, that's all. We have a master developer right now that is going through our council for approvals with plans of office building, hotel, residential, a lot of affordable housing is going into the area. You know, the East Bank Boulevard is meant to be a multimodal, but with a priority on a BRT. And so we're really looking at affordable housing being tied in with the BRT along the East Bank. So there's some pretty exciting things going on in that area that have actually been developed through our Imagine East Bank.
Taking my planner's hat off for a minute and speaking as a long-term Nashville area resident, I used to come downtown all the time and two things really affected that more than anything else. The first of which was parking prices have gotten exorbitant. And then secondly, the explosion, that destroyed about half the establishments I like to frequent downtown.
Yeah.
And getting those back is going to be a long haul or something in alternative to that. But I applaud your efforts for providing additional affordable parking on the East Bank, I guess. And back on the riverfront station and I guess Hermitage Avenue and Gallatin Road Avenue being primary corridors going east. How does the plan address those corridors?
The corridors are getting to
You want me to?
still in the context of the star then? Okay.
Yeah, so the STAR has been going almost in conjunction with the Connect Downtown, same timing almost. We are getting recommendations from the WeGo STAR future directions study. So that's wrapping up and that'll also be presented to the RTA board. But there are plans to modify service, to spread it out possibly over 7 days. We're still restricted on the rail service with the PTC implementation of PTC. So they're presenting all of those options to the RTA board again in the next couple of months. And in part of that did include changing Riverfront Station and how that, because right now you just got a box with some bathrooms and a lobby that's not open all the time. So there is in that plan some options for that and how that grows or changes with what's going on with the connect downs.
Additional connection to it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not doing anything that would prevent that.
Yeah.
We've tried to make sure that we're not.
But in reference to further expansion of WeGo services, that would connect to the region. We are looking right now at Gallatin, and there's some opportunities to create a BRT on Gallatin. And so we're considering that. We are in conversations with TDOT about some opportunities on Dickerson as well. And that is something we're looking at being more of a, yes, it's going through Nashville, but it being a regional opportunity as we move forward. The city, actually, our mayor just recently announced a referendum. We're going out for dedicated funding toward a transportation improvements. So would really love everybody's support on that, but that's going to offer us an opportunity to do some of the expansions of multimodal opportunities that we haven't really had in the past because of limited resources, but we feel would strongly benefit the region as a whole. So once we get that plan pulled together, we'll be asking to have the opportunity to bring that before this board for consideration, is to share with you what we're thinking and how we feel it is a regional approach. Some of the benefits that will touch the region we'll be sharing with y'all. We've been working very hard on the plan. It's just not there yet, but we will have that in the near future. But I can share that Gallatin, because that's already out in the public, we are actually visiting with the public right now about the BRT opportunities along Gallatin. So we are thinking from a very regional perspective about how we can actually improve service levels for not just Nashvilleians and Davidson County, but also our regional partners.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Very informative. Good stuff to come. Okay, moving on to the regular reports. First in line, FHWA. I'll turn it over to Melanie.
I have two updates I wanted to share. Last month, I presented to the TPB. I think there was some crossover with this group, I think, about the SS4A opportunity, and just wanted to highlight, everything that is eligible for that grant. So it's planning, action plans, safety action plans, demonstration activities. So like temporary, kind of semi-construction, not permanent construction, to help inform your action plan or help revise an action plan, and then implementation grants. So wanted to kind of close the loop on that. That is out now. Their accepting application, the NOFA, was released late last month, making $1.2 billion available through that grant program. It's kind of on a rolling application process. So there's 3 deadlines for this grant. The planning demonstration grants have 3 deadlines: April 4th, May 16th, and August 29th. And then implementation grants are all due May 16th. If you do go for a planning and demonstration grant, I mentioned this last month, but it's a pretty easy application, pretty low effort to some extent, as much as it can be. And then the demonstration activity, you don't have to already know the location of it at this point in the application process. So just kind of plugging that program, really great opportunity to go after some funds. I mentioned this last month too. There's, I think, $650 million available for planning and demonstration. So it's a huge pot of funds. And no one's been turned away so far that's applied for planning and demonstration grants. Everyone has been funded through that program. So just can't guarantee it's going to be like that in the future, but in the past round, that's how it's been. So just plugging that program. And then I also wanted to quickly make note of a new program that's out. It's the Prioritization Process Pilot Program, the PPPP. It's a mouthful. So this is the new program making $30 million available to transportation management areas and state DOTs to essentially, develop a publicly accessible, transparent prioritization process for ranking and selection of projects for inclusion in your short and long-term plans. So just wanted to put that out there. The application deadline for that one is May 1st. And I did send Daniel, I think, information on that one yesterday. So just wanted to plug those 2 grant opportunities that are out there right now.
Thank you, Melanie. Any questions? All right. Moving on to the TDOT report, turn it over to Stacy.
Sir. Or comments earlier, I did locate the project there, State Route 6, US 31. There's 2 projects there. But then, like you said, the design is scheduled for 28 and 30 on those. So we can get back with you with some more information as well. Our planning grants should be going out. I'm expecting to get my letters today. We had 30 applicants from across the state. We're going to fund 19 of those. There's 2 in the MPO, which is Nashville, Davidson County, State Route 45, Old Hickory, like a safety evaluation there. Coincides with a couple other projects that we have going in that area. And the other project in the MPO is Lebanon, State Route 26 corridor study. So we'll officially congratulate you all once I get signatures on the letters, and those will be going out. And OCT, my office, we will be sending out proposals to consultants to put in for those, put proposals in for those projects. And so we'll be coordinating with you all to work on final scoping and final budgets for those projects here over the next month, trying to get towards towards a notice to proceed early April on those projects. So look forward to communicating with you all for that. And that's all I've got, except Simca from local programs is here, and we have a fairly new staff member. If you want to introduce him, or he can introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Bramlett. I'm the new Transportation Program Auditor for Region 3 in the Local Programs Development Office.
Welcome.
He's gonna be your contact for Rutherford County.
Jim will be making his way over. And Stacy, a couple of quick questions, and this may be something probably will be something you need to take back, but with the release of the Transportation Modernization Act, I noticed that the iTrips website is down. I'm assuming because they're updating that with all the new information. Is there any idea when that's going to come back so we can check status of projects?
Exactly. So, yeah, because that's a big resource for us as well. But again, it was loaded with the kind of the old way we were doing it, with the
Right.
3-year projects. And so, yeah, I was looking to do that. And I'll pass that along, that because there is still a lot of folks that are interested to be able to use that format or similar platform.
Okay, and the second question also involves the TMA. Is there any place we can go and look for specifically the regional bridge projects that were included in the Transportation Modernization Act? It lists them on the brochures and the maps that in like the dots on the maps, but it doesn't say specifically which bridge projects were carried over from the previous plans and the Improve Act to be carried over into the Transportation Modernization Act. It just shows them as being the regional bridge priority projects. That would be a question as well. I have not been able to find anything yet.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not sure, so we'll find out.
Those are very specific questions, so.
Maybe Paul.
On Wednesday, TDOT published a 3-year plan for bridges on the state highway system.
Perfect.
So if you'll go out it's on the website, right?
Perfect. I had not been
It's a
checked.
3-year plan for bridges. It went out the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. Diggs. Thank you. Next part of the chair's report, and I don't have anything new. I'm just filling in for Josh. I'm sure he would have something, but I have nothing, so we will move on from that. Staff report, so I'll turn it over.
Great, thank you, Chair. A couple of things. First, thank you, Melanie, for mentioning Safe Streets for All. I would encourage all of you to apply to that program. If we can help you think through any ideas on projects, we'd be happy to do that. Currently thinking through a potential regional application too. We'll come to you with more information on that. And then congrats to the 2 transportation planning grant recipients, Lebanon and Nashville. We'll be interested to hear more about those projects as well. So I'll point you to your packet at the very end. This is our monthly TIP status report. So starting with that first figure, this is as of January 31st, 2024, we received monthly obligation reports from local programs. So thank you, local program staff, for that. So again, the effective period of the TIP from October 2022 through September 2026. This first figure is essentially just a grouping of summary figures. So number of projects programmed, number of projects initiated, percent of projects initiated. So as you can see, the majority of the projects that are in the TIP have been initiated. So that's a good thing. But as you'll see through the rest of the obligation report, doesn't mean that they're necessarily moving forward. As you can see, we're a little bit behind in terms of our obligation rate. We've surpassed about 33% of the TIP period, but we've only obligated about 26% of federal highway funds. And then moving on to figure 2, project counts by current phase of work. Pretty evenly spread out between not started as well as the preliminary phases through construction. About 24% of our projects are currently in construction or implementation. Moving on to figure 3, this is obligation of all federal highway grants from the statewide pots. So CMAQ, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, National Highway Performance Program, STBG, as well as TAP. As you can see, about a 16% total obligation rate on those TDOT programs, about 1.9 million across those programs obligated in January 2024. And this is just showing each of these following charts are just showing the fiscal year 2024, so since October. And then probably the most important for us are suballocated grants, figure 4. As you can see, which you may remember from many of our project delivery discussions, we're pretty behind in terms of suballocated programs. Only, about 400,000 that's been obligated to date across TAP, local STBG, which are your set asides for your small communities, as well as USTBG. So hopefully in the coming months, we'll have couple projects. I know of a couple specific projects that are almost ready to obligate, so hopefully we can get that number up going forward. But that's the snapshot of our suballocated funds. Moving on to figure 5, federal have obligations on locally managed projects. So these are just any locally managed project that has had an obligation on any phase through from October until now. So about 1.2 million total. I think local communities look for your projects there. If I'm missing out any obligations, let me know. Yeah.
Raymond Hirsch should say White House one where you got Gallatin in figure 5.
Oh, we'll fix that. Thank you for pointing that out. And then figure 6 is just all of the grant funding opportunities. I encourage you to look through that. We post all of our grant opportunities at gnrc.org/grants. So any grant that Melanie mentions at these meetings, we post pretty quickly after on our grants website so that you all can have access to those notice of funding opportunities. And then of course, we'll be looking to update this figure 7, our census defined areas. That's from the 2010 census. So hopefully pretty soon we'll be able to update that with the 2020 urban areas. And I'm happy to take any questions on that, but that's all we've got from a staff report. Yes.
One question on the figure 6. Yes, the wildlife crossings pilot program. Do we know when is that a one-time?
I believe that's an annual program. Last year was the first year. Is that correct? Any other questions on the status report? All right, I'll just mention the upcoming meetings. We'll be at the Howard office building on the 20th for TPP. Parking will be tight, so we're trying to figure out a way to figure that out. And then April 3rd is our next TCC meeting, and then April 17th, the next regional council meeting. So let us know if you have any questions in the meantime, and I'll turn it back to John. Yep.
I apologize. May I give a quick update?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Jessica Hill. I just wanted to let you all know that GNRC is the lead agency for the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. We did deliver our Priority Climate Action Plan, which was required on March 1st. So that makes this region, a 17 county planning area, eligible for $4.3 billion to apply for our implementation grant that is due on April 1st. If you're interested to see what our emissions reduction measures were included in the PCAP to see if that your project would be eligible under those measures that we submitted, please reach out and let us know. We had some projects that were identified by some of our partners that we made sure were covered in our PCAP submittal, but if there's any interest in an idea that you have, and again, it's primarily for emissions reduction, so air pollution and quality. So I apologize. I wanted to make sure that it's a tight turnaround. If you're interested, April 1st is the application for EPA.
Is there any other business come before this body? I'm not seeing any. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, thank you.
Please leave your name tags on the table.
We will come and find you.
Yes, I will. You'll never get another one. I'm getting meaner in my old age.
He's not joking either. I took mine with one